Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a rifle cartridge review on the 6.5mm by 55 Swedish. Stay tuned. In the early 1890s, Norway and Sweden got together and decided to collaborate on a new service rifle that they both could use. Even though it's called the 6.5 Swede or Swedish, it is a joint collaboration between Norway and Sweden. Now, about 5 years before this, in 1886, the French had developed the 8mm Lebel round, and it utilized smokeless powder. And this was a huge advancement in rifle cartridge technology. And so governments all across the world began to update their infantry rifles and infantry cartridges to a smokeless round. And in Norway and Sweden, they settled upon the 6.5mm caliber. A few years later, the Japanese with their Arisaka and the Italians with their Carcano would also kind of copy this caliber. But the Swede, to the best of my understanding, is the first 6.5mm rifle cartridge ever created. So not only did they draw inspiration from the 8mm Lebel with its smokeless powder, they also looked at the 8x57 German round created in 1888 that had a rimless head. And that rimless head seemed like a big advantage, so they also adopted it, although they kind of put their own spin on it. So this new 6.5 caliber cartridge was kind of adopting all the most modern advancements of the day to incorporate it into its design. And based on their research, they felt like the 6.5 caliber was just right for what they were going for. Now, through this joint effort, the Norwegians would get this cartridge in their Craig Jorgensen rifle, and the Swedish would get this in a Mauser rifle. Now, they began to work on this in 1891, and they finished up and released it as their infantry rifle and cartridge in 1894. So today, in 2023, this cartridge is 129 years old. It's one of the OGs. It with the 7x50 Mauser, the 7.62 Russian, and of course the 8x57 German round that I spoke of, the Lebel, and a few other ones, along with some American cartridges like the 30-30, all kind of came out in that same time frame. Some of those OG cartridges had rims, some didn't. They all would eventually take on smokeless powder design, and after 1898, they would all begin to use Spitzer bullets. Now, this has been a popular cartridge in the world for 129 years. In America, it has never been at the top of the list. It's always been there, but in Europe and other places around the world, especially in Scandinavia, it's been extremely popular. It has mild recoil, long barrel life, seems to be pretty inherently accurate, and overall it's just a great design, and it has been a very popular cartridge in hunting for a long time. Like I said, it has seen military use in 2 different countries. It has also been popular at times in competition shooting, especially in the Scandinavian countries, but its claim to fame really has always been hunting. It's known for taking those Scandinavian moose. Even though it might seem underpowered, it's taken a lot of those, and has been just good for all the deer species over in Europe. Is it around today? Not a lot, but I remember about 10 years ago, it might have been a little more than that, maybe 10 to 12 years ago, the Thompson Center Venture was chambering the 6.5x55 Swede, and I almost got it like 3 times. I wish I would have. Just a couple years ago, I know that CZ had a few chamberings as well, but it's not very common today. However, it is still here. It's still a cartridge that it's not obsolete. It is still active. In fact, I'll show you right now. You can go to Midway USA here in America, and you can purchase several different factory ammunition rounds right now this very day. So it's still quite popular. Its popularity is waning as far as being chambered in new rifles, but there's so many people that have them that it definitely has a market and a following, and I don't foresee that ending anytime soon. Now there's a lot of good 6.5 cartridges out there. You know, way back in the day, the Japanese with their Arisaka, the Italians with their Carcano, they kind of followed that up. And there were some other ones. Winchester, many years later, came out with their 264 Winchester Magnum, which it, along with the 300 H&H, was kind of the inspiration behind the 7mm Remington Magnum. 264 Win Mag is a phenomenal cartridge. And then, of course, there's the 260 Remington that, for all intents and purposes, is kind of a ballistic twin to the Swede. And it, of course, is just a neck down 308. We have the 6.5 284, one of my personal favorite cartridges, neck down from the 284 Winchester. It's just a step up, I would say. It has a little bit more case capacity. It's going to push that bolt a little bit faster. And then in our more modern times, we have the 6.5 Creedmoor, the 6.5 PRC, the 6.5 Weatherby RPM, and of course there's some other 6.5s with massive Magnum cases behind them, pushing some of the fastest bullets in the whole world. However, the original 6.5 was the Swede. So I want to answer a question today. Is it still viable in 2023? How does it compare to some other cartridges? So let's take a look at that. So here's the 6.5 by 55 Swedish. You see it's got a 25-degree shoulder angle, overall length of 3.150. The case is 2.165. Head diameter 0.480. That's slightly different than the 0.473 on the Mausers. Let's just focus in on the 140 grain bullets from Nosler. They say your max is going to be around 2790. So let's just say you can comfortably get to about 2750 in most of these powder charges here. Let's see how that compares to the Creedmoor. All right, so Nosler says around 2733, and so pretty close, but you know, you're probably talking like a 50 feet per second advantage on the Swede. Now, make sure we're looking at apples to apples here. That's a 24-inch barrel. No, 23-inch barrel. Actually, that gives a little bit more advantage to the Swede. Let's try to compare something here. So, IMR 4350, they've got 43 grains at 2780, and they say it'll hold 50.2. And back to the Creedmoor, IMR 4350, only 41.5 grains with max of 46.8. So that's probably pretty close. So with the difference in barrel lengths, I'm gonna say the Swede's gonna get about a 75 feet per second advantage. What about the old 260 Remington? Let's look at that. 140 grain bullet, case capacity is 47.4, 24-inch barrel, and you're talking about 2838. IMR 4350, you're talking like 43 grains, about the same, 2785. So basically the 260 Remington and the Swede are like ballistic twins. 6.5 PRC with much bigger case capacity and a 26-inch barrel, gonna get you around 3100, and it doesn't have IMR 4350 listed, but definitely gonna get up there with the PRC because of the more case capacity. All right, back to the comparison between the Swede and the Creedmoor. Now you might say, yeah, but there's so many more modern touches and advantages to the Creedmoor versus the Swede. And I agree with that to a point. Some disadvantages to the Swede is its kind of intermediate length that might not fit quite right in a short action. And you're probably, if you can find a rifle chambered in it today, it's probably going to be in a short action. So you might have to stuff the bullet in there a little ways, a little further than it should be. Availability, of course, is going to favor the Creedmoor. What it's basically going to come down to is if you buy factory ammo in both, the Creedmoor is going to edge it out, because the max pressure for the Swede is like 51,000 PSI. versus like 62 or 63,000 for the Creedmoor, because one's modern and one's ancient. One is 129 years old. The other one came out in 2007. So in like 113 years, difference, or actually a little more than that, yeah, you're going to have a few modern touches. However, if you hand load, or if you have a custom rifle, especially with a chamber, with the action, I should say, that matches that intermediate length, I mean, and you're obviously going to have, you're going to withstand higher pressures in a more custom modern gun versus, an 1893 Swedish Mauser. So because of those old guns it can be shot from, the max pressure is low. So in factory, there's no question the Creedmoor is going to edge it out. In custom and in hand loads, the Swede's going to edge out the Creedmoor. Even though it's well over 100 years older, it's still going to edge it out. The Creedmoor has a 1 in 8 twist. The original Swede had a 1 in 7.8 twist. Actually had a faster twist rate. Then they moved to more of like a 1.86 or a 1.87. Now some more modern ones might have something like a 1 in 9. It just would depend. But the original one was basically 1 in 8 too. It was always designed to shoot like 160 grain bullets. Of course, we're talking like round nose bullets. But the Swede was well ahead of its time, and not only compares to the Creedmoor in 2023, if you hand load for it and you have a custom rifle, you actually can exceed the performance of the Creedmoor. Let's just do a visual comparison between these two. The Swede on the left, the Creedmoor on the right. Obviously the head is a little different. One is more what you see in that 308, 30-06 or Creedmoor case. It's been going all the way back to the 7 Mauser. The other one is more, it has less space in between the rim and the body of the case. But basically they're both rimless, though you could consider the Swede kind of a semi-rimmed. And the case is longer, of course, in the Swede, giving it a little bit edge on case capacity. And the overall length, of course, is more of an intermediate length versus a short action. One of these came out nearly 130 years ago. The other one came out in 2007. And they shoot about the same feet per second. Pretty incredible. So me personally, I do like more modern cartridges, more modern cartridge design. But that doesn't mean I don't like classic cartridges. I'm a big fan of the 30-06. That's pretty classic. And I love these classic cartridges like that 6.5 by 55 Swede. When something has stuck around for 129 years, that should tell you of how great it is and how much it has to offer. So I foresee it sticking around for another 20-some years, and before too long, it'll have its 150th year anniversary. It's a phenomenal cartridge. It was way ahead of its time, and it still can compete today. So pretty impressed with the cartridge. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next. If there's a cartridge you'd like me to review, please leave it in the comments. I'd be happy to do so. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel, and that will definitely help. And check the links in the description below for some cool stuff. I guess that'll do it for today. Hope you have a wonderful day, and until next time, take care.